Hey everyone, Brittany Spears Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Deerhoof record, The Magic. Indie vets Deerhoof are back with their 3 billionth record, The Magic, proving themselves once again to be one of the most prolific and consistent bands in the underground today. And this new record of theirs actually reminds me quite a bit of an older album of theirs, which came out about 10 years ago at this point, the record Offend Maggie, which for Deerhoof was an incredibly distorted, brittle, and straightforward record, especially considering how kooky and colorful their last few projects had been, Runners 4 and Friend Opportunity. And then right after putting out this very sunburnt kind of lo-fi, almost garagey indie rock record with Offend Maggie, Deerhoof dipped right back into coming through with these very colorful, versatile albums, experimenting occasionally with electronics and samples on Breakup Song and La Isla Bonita. But now I feel like they're almost bringing it back to basics again with this new project, because they kind of have this rough, distorted, sunburnt sound once again, and this garage rock aesthetic. At least on some of the tracks here, this album is a little all over the place like any Deerhoof album is, although the lyrics are still as playful and as innocent as usual. And there's also something kind of trippy and psychedelic about The Magic. Maybe you could call what is trippy and psychedelic about it the magic. Especially on the track Criminals of the Dream, where at the intro of this song we have these very glossy, very slow, glacial synths. Also the lazy, glazed over vocal harmonies on the song Learning to Apologize Effectively. I thought that was pretty sleepy. Also another synthetic moment was the interlude / cover of I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire, which I didn't care for this rendition at all. I feel like Deerhoof did everything they could on this track to just not capture the original soul of the song, and instead dispose of it and replace it with just loads of odd quirk. Another surprise change of pace is the song Acceptance Speech, which has these very steady rhythm guitars that sound like something out of some kind of grand 80s hard rock anthem, which was pretty fun to hear Deerhoof work at that angle, although I don't think the brittle production really complemented the sound that they were going for on this track. While I usually do find Deerhoof's sound, the way they record their records and mix their records, to be very stimulating, because it's usually very hot, very distorted, blaring, very stimulating and attention-grabbing, it doesn't necessarily complement every track here. However, this sound does very much complement the garage rock tracks, which surprisingly do not feature any lead vocals from Satomi, who has dominated vocally many of Deerhoof's records since she joined the band. And now we're just kind of getting these straightforward garage rock tracks. It's cool that Deerhoof can perform this sound, like on That Ain't No Life to Me, or Dispossessor, or Plastic Thrills, which to me is a cut that sort of sounds like something off of a Stooges record. It proves Deerhoof to be versatile, like we've known the band is, but I don't think the band really brings anything to this sound. They sound like many other groups who are putting out music very much like this today, except maybe with a better instrumental performance, because there is something to be said for the fantastic guitar work that usually goes into a Deerhoof record, as well as the amazing drumming from Greg. Now, these hard-hitting and short blitzkrieg of garage rock pair very interestingly with these funky, groovy, kind of spazzy rock cuts that are colorful and somewhat hard to predict at times, specifically with the song Nurse Me, which might be my favorite cut on the entire record. And we have a couple of cuts here that sort of feel like they're a part of an exercise in musical ADD, where we have very short tracks with abrupt endings and very basic song structures. Songs like Debut and Little Hollywood and Model Behavior, tracks that I like the grooves of these songs. I think they make for interesting ideas. Deerhoof is showing off their creativity on these tracks, but I think their focus is a little lacking. But despite my complaints, there are plenty of highlights on this record. It's another fun Deerhoof album. I love tracks like KAFE MANIA, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Learning to Apologize Effectively, which I mentioned earlier, the funky but sort of depressing Life is Suffering, which has a wonderful ascending refrain of higher and higher and higher. it's another good record for Deerhoof. You know, there's not really too much more I can say about it than that. It's stimulating, it's childish, but in a good way. It's puzzling, but occasionally distracted and inconsistent. I'm feeling a light to decent 7 on this one. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like. If you like, please subscribe. Please don't cry if you disagree with my thoughts on this album. You're the best. Have a good one. Eat some vegetables. Stay hydrated forever.